So maybe you're thinking about investing, or maybe just curious
Mm.
about AI and, all the hype around it in healthcare.
Mm.
Or maybe you just like the idea of having like a personal medical advisor right in your pocket.
Yeah.
Well, whatever it is today, we're doing a deep dive into Teach Me Now.
We've got company info, market analysis, even research on how doctors think. It's
Wow.
really interesting stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. I always love those little extra details.
Yeah, we've got a good mix of sources here so we can get like a nice, well-rounded picture for you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's jump into it. Teach Me Now's slogan is, "We explain to you what your doctor did not."
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty bold.
It is bold. It really highlights this idea that there's often a communication gap in healthcare.
Right.
Like you leave the doctor's office and you're like, oh, shoot, I had like 10 other questions I forgot to ask.
Totally. Or you get home and you realize you didn't understand half of what they said.
Exactly. So Teach Me Now wants to be that resource you can turn to anytime, to make all that complex medical stuff clear and relevant to you.
So like personalized, basically.
Yeah, total personalized.
Yeah.
And they're using AI to do it, which is really interesting.
Okay, how does that work?
So they take your medical data and they combine it with AI algorithms that are actually modeled after how doctors think and diagnose and reason.
Wait, so it's not just like generic answers?
No, it's taking your specific situation into account.
Wow, that's incredible. So they're not just throwing AI at the problem. They're actually trying to understand how doctors think.
Yeah. They did all this research on provider reasoning, looking at things like heuristics and Bayesian analysis, which are basically the mental shortcuts and probability assessments that doctors use all the time.
That's so cool. Okay, but how does it actually work for me? Like if I'm a patient using Teach Me Now, what's my experience?
Pretty straightforward. You upload your medical documents, ask your questions, and their AI gets to work.
Okay.
It analyzes your records, all that personal data, and then gives you a personalized response. And it's all based on, real validated medical knowledge and guidelines. So, you're getting good information.
So it's more than just like a basic question and answer tool.
Right. They call it a conversation. It's designed to go beyond just like your immediate question
Okay.
and really try to anticipate your needs, provide a more comprehensive level of support like you would get in a real conversation with a doctor.
That makes sense. So who are they targeting with this? Who's the ideal Teach Me Now user?
They're really focused on what they call high utilizers, so people with chronic conditions who need frequent medical care.
Okay.
They're also looking at elderly patients and people who are uninsured.
So basically groups that often struggle to get consistent personalized advice.
Exactly. And this actually ties into a larger trend that some are calling a shadow healthcare system.
A shadow healthcare system. What is that?
It's not necessarily a bad thing. Think about it this way. Traditional healthcare is expensive, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people just can't afford it. So AI and wearable technology are starting to offer solutions outside of that system.
So if you can't afford regular doctor visits, an app on your phone and a fitness tracker might help you manage your health to some degree?
Exactly. And that's where Teach Me Now comes in. It's part of this wave of innovation providing new options.
Interesting. Okay, let's talk about Teach Me Now in the context of the market then.
Okay.
Who are their competitors? What's that landscape looking like?
Well, the personalized medicine market is huge. It was valued at over $500 billion in 2022.
Wow.
And it's projected to nearly double by 2030. So there's a lot of opportunity, but also a lot of competition.
Who are the big names they need to worry about?
Companies like Ada Health, Babylon Health, K Health, and Teladoc are all making big moves. They offer everything from symptom checkers to telemedicine.
So how does Teach Me Now differentiate themselves? What makes them unique?
Their big thing is that focus on modeling how doctors actually think. That's what sets them apart. Plus, they're using a direct-to-consumer approach similar to what Warby Parker did with eyeglasses.
Wait, the Warby Parker model.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Think accessibility and affordability. Warby Parker cut out the middleman, sold directly to customers online, offered stylish glasses at a fraction of the price.
So Teach Me Now wants to do that for healthcare. Make it more affordable, reach people directly.
Exactly. Democratize access to medical advice. But there's a catch.
There's always a catch.
They're a young company.
Yeah.
Very young, and they're bootstrapped. So they're working with a really limited budget.
How limited are we talking?
Try $200,000.
Wow.
Tiny team. Mostly contract workers. No fancy offices, no big marketing campaigns. It's a scrappy operation.
So how are they planning to make money? They can't stay bootstrapped forever.
Right. Well, they're looking at a few different revenue streams. Subscription fees are the obvious one.
Yeah, for those high utilizers who want constant guidance.
Exactly. They're also considering B2B contracts, partnering with healthcare providers or insurers to offer the platform to a wider audience.
Okay. And what was that other one?
Data licensing,
Oh, yeah.
which is obviously a bit of a minefield with all the privacy concerns around healthcare data.
Huge minefield.
But they've been very clear that any data licensing would only happen with explicit patient consent and the data would be anonymized.
That's good to hear. But still, being a young company with no revenue has got to be tough when it comes to attracting investors.
It's a big hurdle, no doubt. But they're betting on the power of their technology and the expertise of their team.
So speaking of their team, they obviously have doctors involved, which is great. But do they have the tech talent to build this kind of sophisticated AI?
Well, their CEO, Dr. Paul J. Lee, has a background in both coding and software development on top of his medical expertise, so that's a good sign.
Interesting.
They also have Thomas Park, who led big data at Amazon, heading up their data strategy. And Noah Jones, their CTO, is a veteran of cloud migration and scalable solutions in healthcare.
So it seems like a good mix of medical and tech knowledge. Okay, so we've covered the tech, the market, the team, even some of the challenges they're facing. But how far along are they in the development process? Do they actually have a working product yet?
They're aiming for a pretty rapid turnaround. They want to create a minimum viable product, what they call an MVP, within 6 months.
Okay.
And they're using AI coding tools to speed things up.
AI coding tools, what is that?
It's basically AI helping to write the code for their platform.
Wow, that's pretty meta.
It is. It's not quite science fiction, but these tools can really help automate a lot of that coding work, which saves a ton of time.
6 months to an MVP, that's ambitious.
Yeah.
Have they done any testing to see if it actually works?
Oh, yeah. They've done surveys with both patients and providers, asking real doctors to evaluate the accuracy of the AI's responses. The results are really impressive.
I'm on the edge of my seat. What kind of feedback did they get?
97% of the AI's responses were rated as accurate by the doctors.
97%.
They were impressed with the level of detail and how well the platform aligned with, those established clinical guidelines.
That's serious validation. Okay, so they've got the team positive feedback. What kind of impact could Teach Me Now have on the healthcare world?
I mean, potentially a big one. This tech could really revolutionize patient education, empower people to understand their own healthcare better.
Give me an example. How would that look in real life?
Imagine a patient just diagnosed with something really complex. They're scared, they're confused, they don't know what to ask their doctor. Teach Me Now can break down that diagnosis in simple language, explain treatment options, and answer all those questions in a way that they can actually understand.
So no more frantic Googling symptoms at 3 a.m.?
Exactly. You've got this medical expert right there in your pocket 24/7.
And that has huge implications for healthcare accessibility, right? Especially for underserved communities and people who, just can't afford traditional care.
Exactly. So it's definitely an optimistic view. But are there any downsides to a technology like this?
Yeah, especially in healthcare.
Well, we've been talking about Teach Me Now providing personalized medical advice.
Right.
But this brings up some broader questions about the future of healthcare and the role of doctors, in a world where AI is becoming more and more prominent.
So while Teach Me Now is focused on this one specific area, it's prompting us to think bigger.
Exactly. And that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. It's not just about one company or one product. It's about this fundamental shift in how we access and understand healthcare.
And a shift that's likely to accelerate in the next few years.
Absolutely.
Okay, I think we've covered a lot of ground here. Maybe we should take a quick break and then come back to explore some of these bigger ideas in more detail.
Yeah, that sounds good. We've got plenty more to dive into.
All right, we'll be right back.
So before the break, we were talking about how Teach Me Now kind of makes us think about the future of healthcare.
Right, all this AI stuff.
Yeah, and they're a young company in a really competitive market.
For sure. We talked about their limited budget, their ideas for revenue, but how do they actually scale up, with only $200,000 and a handful of contractors?
Well, their first priority is getting that minimum viable product, that MVP, out there. They're hoping that, even a basic product, if it's successful, will attract investors.
So it's like, look what we can do with almost nothing. Imagine what we could do with real funding.
Exactly. And they've actually already mapped out a pretty detailed growth plan.
Oh, really?
Okay.
I'm all ears. What's the plan?
So they're taking kind of a multi-phase approach. Initially, it's all about refining that MVP based on user feedback,
Okay.
expanding their testing, and then launching on Google Play.
So classic startup strategy, launch, learn, iterate.
Exactly. Their midterm goals involve partnerships with healthcare organizations, adding multilingual support,
Hmm.
and expanding the platform's capabilities.
Partnerships are huge in healthcare,
Yeah.
so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, for sure.
And long term, where do they see Teach Me Now going in the next few years?
They have big ambitions. They want to integrate with electronic health records, expand internationally,
Ah,
and eventually even develop like a whole digital patient ecosystem.
what does that even mean? A digital patient ecosystem?
Think wearable integration, proactive health monitoring, the whole shebang.
That's a huge leap from a bootstrapped MVP.
It is, but they seem confident. They have a solid team with a diverse range of expertise,
Hmm.
and they're targeting a market that's really ripe for disruption.
Let's talk about that team for a second.
Mm.
We know they have doctors, which is great,
Hmm.
but what about the tech side? Do they have the right people to actually build this complex AI platform?
Well, their CEO, Dr. Paul J. Lee, has a background in both coding and software development,
Okay.
on top of his medical expertise, so that's pretty unique.
Yeah, that's a good sign.
They also have Thomas Park, who led big data at Amazon, heading up their data strategy,
Wow.
and Noah Jones, their CTO. He's a veteran of cloud migration and scalable solutions in healthcare.
So really good mix of medical and tech knowledge.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Are there any gaps in the team, though? What might they be missing?
Well, one thing that jumps out is they don't specifically mention any dedicated specialists in AI or machine learning.
Right.
While their team has some AI experience, having real experts in natural language processing would be super valuable.
Especially for that medical diagnostic side of things.
Exactly. The AI needs to understand and respond to complex medical language.
For sure. Another potential gap I'm seeing is, expertise in regulatory compliance and legal matters.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Given how sensitive healthcare data is, having dedicated legal counsel or a compliance officer seems kind of essential.
Absolutely. HIPAA and all those other regulations are a minefield.
Totally. They need someone who knows that stuff inside and out.
They might also benefit from a bit more diversity in terms of medical specialties.
Oh, so.
Right now, their expertise seems pretty concentrated in ophthalmology and respiratory medicine.
So if they want to offer advice on a wider range of conditions, they'll need doctors from other specialties.
Exactly.
Makes sense. What about those softer skills? Things like business development, marketing, customer support.
Oh, yeah, those are crucial. Building a great product is only half the battle.
Right.
They need to get it in front of the right people and provide ongoing support.
It all goes back to that Warby Parker model.
Totally.
They were amazing at marketing and customer experience.
If Teach Me Now wants to replicate that success, they'll need to build a strong brand and, cultivate a loyal user base.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a good sense of their tech, their team, their goals, some of the challenges.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious, how do they see themselves fitting into the larger healthcare system? Are they trying to disrupt it completely?
That's where this idea of the shadow healthcare system gets really interesting.
Right.
Teach Me Now isn't necessarily trying to replace the existing system,
Right.
but they are presenting an alternative.
An alternative for who, though? For people who can't afford traditional healthcare.
Partly, but it's also about a more personalized and accessible approach for everyone.
Personalized and accessible. That sounds a lot like what telehealth companies are already doing.
There's definitely some overlap,
Mhm.
but Teach Me Now goes beyond just virtual appointments.
Okay.
They're aiming to create a truly personalized health companion that's always available.
So like the difference between having a doctor on call and having a medical expert living in your phone.
Exactly. And that's a powerful idea, especially as healthcare gets more complex and fragmented.
But let's not get too carried away with the hype. There are some valid concerns about this whole shadow healthcare thing.
For sure.
What about quality control? If everyone's getting medical advice from an AI who's making sure it's accurate and safe.
That's a huge question. And it's one that Teach Me Now is trying to address proactively
Okay.
by focusing on thorough testing and validation. They're using established medical knowledge.
Right.
And they're very transparent about how their algorithms work.
But ultimately it comes down to trust, right?
Yeah.
Patients need to trust that this AI is giving them good advice, and doctors need to trust that it's not going to cause harm.
Trust is fundamental. And it's something that Teach Me Now will need to build over time.
For sure.
Through transparency, accuracy, and, a genuine commitment to patient well-being.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. We talked about their technology, their team, their business model, even their place in this evolving healthcare landscape.
It's a lot.
It is. But I think we're missing one crucial piece of the puzzle,
Oh.
the patients. What do the actual users of Teach Me Now have to say about it?
That's a great point. We've talked about the provider feedback,
Right.
but understanding the patient experience is just as important.
Exactly.
Luckily, Teach Me Now collected some data on that too.
Perfect.
It,
Let's dive into those patient insights. After all, the success of Teaching Now really depends on whether it can truly empower patients and improve their lives. So we've talked about the tech, the team, the big picture, AI and healthcare, even some potential challenges, but it's time to hear from the most important people.
the patients.
Exactly. Let's dive into that patient survey that Teach Me Now did. What were they trying to find out?
Well, the big question was, does Teach Me Now actually help people understand their conditions better?
Okay.
Can it really empower patients, especially those who might not even know what questions to ask or who get overwhelmed by medical jargon?
So it's more than just, do you like it or not?
Right. They wanted to understand how much it was actually improving patient understanding.
Okay. How did they design the survey?
They tried to make it as realistic as possible. They had 223 patients with an average age of 63, which, aligns with their target audience of high utilizers and people managing chronic conditions.
Yeah, that makes sense. Older patients tend to have more complex medical histories and be those high utilizers.
Exactly.
So what did the patients actually do in the survey?
So first, they were encouraged to upload their medical records to the platform,
Okay.
and then they were given a list of suggested questions relevant to their conditions.
I like that.
Yeah, it's important because remember, Teach Me Now is all about anticipating those needs and helping people even if they don't know where to start.
It takes away that feeling of being lost, not
Exactly.
knowing what to ask.
So the patients spent about 20 minutes with the platform asking an average of 6 questions.
Okay.
And afterwards, they rated how much their understanding of their condition had changed on a scale of, negative 100% much worse to plus 100% much better.
Okay, drum roll please. What were the results?
The average improvement was 82%.
Wow.
And 74% of patients reported a better understanding of their health situation after using Teach Me Now.
82%. That's incredible. It
Yeah.
seems like Teach Me Now is actually delivering on its promise of making medical information, understandable.
Yeah, the data definitely suggests that. And it's not just about the numbers either.
Right.
The survey also collected qualitative feedback, and patients consistently said they felt more confident talking to their doctors after using Teach Me Now.
So it's not just understanding your own condition better. It's about feeling empowered to actually participate in your healthcare decisions.
Exactly. It's about bridging that communication gap.
So what does all of this mean? We've looked at Teach Me Now from every angle, the tech, the market, the team, the potential challenges, and now we have this patient experience.
It seems like they have a lot of potential.
They do.
They're addressing a real problem, that feeling of being lost and confused in the healthcare system, and they're doing it with a really innovative solution.
And with a focus on data privacy, accuracy, and, most importantly, patient empowerment.
Absolutely. But it's important to remember that they're still a young company,
Right.
working with a limited budget in a very competitive market. They still have a lot to prove.
Scaling up, securing funding, navigating the complex world of, healthcare regulations, those are all huge challenges.
Huge challenges, but the early signs are promising. They have a compelling vision, a dedicated team, and now they have evidence that their tech can make a real difference.
It's really fascinating to see a company like this emerge, at this intersection of technology and healthcare. It makes you wonder what the future holds.
It really does, and that's what I love about these deep dives. We get to explore not just the specifics of, a company or a tech, but also what it means for all of us.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into TeachMa, I want to leave you with one final thought.
Mm.
Imagine a world where everyone has access to this kind of personalized medical guidance.
Yeah.
A world where understanding your health and navigating the healthcare system is no longer this daunting task.
It's a powerful vision.
It is. And whether or not they achieve all of your goals, they've already started this really important conversation about the future of healthcare and how technology can empower us all. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll continue to explore this evolving world of healthcare tech and its impact on our lives.